So I spoke about last week about why I left. I'm going to talk about what made me quit. Okay, secret time. As Bart Crystal says, secret time. Now I can't speak for other sub-industries of tourism, but in this one in particular, the boat tour, industry, there's a lot of. It's not a nice place to work if you're a photographer. If you don't know, there's you have the captain, the sailors, the tour guides, but then you also have in these tours, like in the ATVs, like in the zip lines, you have photographers that are there to like shoot you either candidly or those cringy poses of all that bullshit. You have photographers that are there just to capture moments, right? Cool. They're not considered part of the crew. Not only they're not considered part of the crew, they are basically just, not liked by most. And luckily, most of that is beginning to change. Most of that attitude is beginning to change with newer generations of people working there. Let me explain. You see, before, when everything was all cash, no digital, the tourists had a certain amount of cash for them to actually spend money on, right? So if the tourists bought photos from the photographers, then they didn't have. It's so dumb, but this is generally what the sentiment came from. It's so dumb. Check this out. Most of those toxic crew members thought that if they spend money on us, the photographers, they won't be getting as much money in their tip jars. Silly? Yes. If you're watching, you understand that if you earned a tip, you're going to get it regardless, right? All right, cool. We're on the same page. But now, since things have been digital for the last couple of 5 years, you would think that there's no reason for them to hate us, right? Well, they still do. Apparently, it's some type of like rite of passage for them to hate us. Again, most of them, if they're like old school, then they hate photographers and try to make their life as difficult and as miserable as they can. And luckily, most of that is beginning to change. Most of that attitude is beginning to change with newer generations of people working there. We used to work in really, really, really crappy boats. But I mean really crappy boats. The ones that like pack 200 people in a 150-person boat. If like one engine didn't work and like the bathrooms didn't flush, horrible. And we would come back from swimming and to find our bags just thrown away in the garbage can. That type of environment. I think it's worse because when people see like our shirts, like, oh, you love your job. I'm like, you would think that this type of environment, you're happy and you're enjoying life and just everyone's getting along. And the fact that's not the case, at least for the photographers. The moment they step in, the moment they leave, we feel like we have a target on our backs. Especially from, again, it's less now, but the ones that keep doing this bullshit are higher ups, certain tour guide, certain captains. And they try to just sicken, contaminate the minds and hearts of other decent and nice and kind and genuine people. I think it also has to do with a thing of like egos, a lot of like drama around egos. For example, some tour guides will have a big problem with anyone that's not them speaking to the customers, with the clients, with the passengers first. In their minds, only they can speak to the passengers. And well, the captain's up there and is, doing his thing. The rest of the sailors are like in the kitchen or serving drinks, they're bartending, doing all this other stuff. The tour guide is usually the one that speaks the most, but also us, the photographers. I mean, we're there, we're around. We're like trying to get people's names, knowing what the context of the trip is. The more we can know about the customer, the more context we can have for their for their album that we're at the end, yes, going to sell. Like, they don't want us to speak to them basically at all. I had one captain, one tour member, well, of course they will remain nameless, that basically they did not want me to speak to them until they all boarded. And one captain even told me that all I should be saying is cheese and how much. That's it. No, like, nobody wants to be dealt with like that. And for me, for example, I have a certain type of personality that, even though I am naturally introverted, I love meeting new people. I mean, hell, it's one of the nice things about living in this, working in this type of environments. Like, you get to meet new friends every day. That's genuinely, I genuinely enjoy, I genuinely love my job. But unfortunately, another reason this environment kind of sucks to work in is that a lot of people, like the old school ones, don't like their jobs. A lot of these people only work here because they have to, not because of by choice. A lot of these guys then don't like their jobs. A lot of these guys are basically, and have become just, a lot of these guys have just become cynical. And instead of this making a lovely environment, you know, what you, the customer, the tourists, think this environment is, it's a complete opposite. It's kind of like Will Turner being in The Flying Dutchman. That's how it feels like every day working in this type of environment if you're a photographer. If you're a crew member, you're part of the ship, part of the crew, part of the ship, part of the crew. If you're a photographer, they're just always trying to get rid of you. Again, certain crew members. That with the company that I was working for expanding at such a rate where they hired new corporate, turning this, you know, exotic working shirtless, long hair, meeting cute girls and saying, you know, making new friends. Now everything is just more corporate and factory and just like, nope, you uniform all the time and you gotta, you know, be proper and you can't speak to people unless spoken to. All this type of mess that just like, now there was just mess on both sides, which again, like, good for them, the company that they're expanding. But if you're gonna expand a company, I think we can all agree it shouldn't be more messy for the people working there. No, it should be neater. So now I had the toxic crew members to worry about, and then this corporate bullshit to worry about. So no, again, I had my own things to do, and I can take this bullshit anymore. So yeah, I quit. And to be clear, I did not make this this decision emotionally. No, the other way around. Actually, I wanted to quit on Halloween. I went out, I chilled out with some new friends that I made. The next day, November 1st, it was a lovely day. A lovely day. I met people from my hometown in Oregon. Bend, Oregon. That's where I grew up. I met people from there. We became friends. It was just such a beautiful, perfect day. I captured some wonderful, special moments that some people, you know, made a point to tell me how much that meant to them. It was such a beautiful, perfect day, and I still wanted to quit. There was one reason why I was staying. One reason, the only reason why I was putting up with this bullshit. This mierda. Now, there was a reason why I was staying, putting up with all these mamadas. And wasn't the ocean, wasn't the wildlife, wasn't even the beautiful women or friends that we made along the ways. No, it's more than that.